This is Ivy Unleashed,
a Gold Ivy production. Welcome back, everyone, to Ivy Unleashed. Today, Brooke and I are pumped.
We are talking about something that everyone wants more of, something that has to do with energy.
Yes.
And we have one of our favorite people here.
Someone we can't get enough of.
And if you're a regular listener of the show, you probably know who we're talking about.
Yes, we have Catherine Gagnon back in the house. Welcome back to Ivy Unleashed.
Woohoo! Thank you, ladies. It's such a joy to be back with you on the show, and especially after all of us have been building history.
Yes.
You know, I think the first time when we recorded back in June 2021, I didn't even know who was who. And now we've got a history. So thank you for having me back on the show. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Last time we had Catherine on, we talked about energy leaks, a term that Andrea and I weren't familiar with, and highly recommend, if you're not either, that you go back to episode 34, take a listen. Catherine walked us through energy leaks and overcoming self-limiting beliefs, and one of those energy leaks are heavy emotions, and that's what we're going to dive into today.
Yes. Yeah, but before we even do that, we want to catch up with you, Catherine, on number one, just the history of all of your education, because there's a lot of it, and what you're doing now and what you're kind of up to. It's super interesting. And just for people that haven't heard from you, just a little bit about your background and where you're at today.
Yeah, well, it's been quite a journey. And some of you might know that I used to be a nurse practitioner, and I kind of, escaped from the medical field in 2017 to become a health coach. And somehow I've always been on this quest for the global wellness knowledge. And even as a health coach, something was missing. And I wasn't sure what it was. So I did NLP. I'm a master NLP practitioner and applied neurosciences practitioner. And then still there was something missing. And I don't know, it was in the fall of 2021, it kind of all came to me. You know how when you follow the breadcrumbs of, you see something interesting, you're intrigued, you're like, oh, what is this? You talk to someone, randomly ask them, oh, where are you studying? Oh, Quantum University. Oh my gosh, who's on faculty? Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza. I'm like, what? Greg Braden. I'm like, oh my gosh, looked it up. And I've enrolled into Quantum University to do a PhD doctorate program in natural medicine. And what's amazing about this program is it's kind of the medicine the way I've always envisioned it. And it's bringing quantum physics into the wellness and healing on a global, physical, emotional, spiritual, kind of all the aspects. And it's giving a blueprint to, when we're doing NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, where are we really acting? Oh, we're acting at the level of the mind. Okay. When we're working with chakras and aligning chakras, or if we were to do, let's say, acupuncture for the meridians, well, we'd be in the vital body. So it's just like, whoa, all of a sudden, it's like all of my previous education and different modalities, they have a place to live in a way that is really easy to understand, and it helps me to help my clients better because I have just a gazillion more tools in my pocket. So that's been super exciting and really bringing quantum physics, and we can talk a little bit about this on this episode, but really the big principle of quantum physics is kind of similar to the law of attraction in the way that it works, and that at least I understand it conceptually and in the manifestation world. So that is super exciting. And I've also started in January a program that is it's ancient wisdom from the Siddha Veda lineage. It's in India. It's 2,500 years old, and it's a lineage that was passing the teachings from master to student with 2,000 years old manuscripts. And this lineage goes all the way back to Jivaka, who used to be Buddha's physician. So it's kind of like Ayurvedic medicine. Like, this is the medicine in India, but it goes a little bit deeper with Siddha Veda in terms of involving more of the mind and the emotions, along with diets and herbals and things like that. So the PhD that I'm doing with the Siddha Veda program and learning about really different ways of seeing the physical body, the vital body, the emotional body, and the spiritual body, is just kind of bringing it all together. And I think this is what I've always dreamed about, was to get the best of every approach to kind of build my own unique way to help somebody kind of just shortcut, determine what they need. And I'm all about helping people feeling free from anxiety, free from fatigue, free from worry, free from illness, free from lack of motivation or lack of purpose. So that people can, tap into their gift and live a purposeful, meaningful life, no matter what it takes. So it's really exciting.
It is very exciting. And Brooke and I have worked with you for the past, 4 to 6 months, and have experienced that freedom you speak of really uncovering what our beliefs are, what we've convinced ourselves of, our entire life, things that we've carried that have felt heavy and we didn't even know we were carrying them. And I do think sometimes it takes someone with just a different level of experience to reflect with you and to think about, like, what if, or do you know where that comes from? Or how do you want to feel? And what would that be like for you if you could let go of this or have a different way of thinking? And it's powerful. I'm so happy that you followed those breadcrumbs to keep uncovering new ways. I mean, I was just talking with Brooke. I knew nothing about chiropractic. I feel like with health and wellness, it's like constantly there's something new that could help someone. It's like, it's a never ending journey of how different things in health and well-being can affect your wellness. So thank you for doing the work you're doing. And I really want to have you kind of help people understand about our belief systems. Mm-hmm. And how you even start uncovering what your belief system is and like where that comes from.
Yes, totally. If we take the premise from, let's say, from law of attraction, that everything that we see in our external world is based on our internal beliefs, then it might be easier to find out our internal beliefs. The challenge with beliefs is that they're subconscious. Most of them have been programmed in the early formative years, most of them before the age of 6, before we could even decide for ourselves what was true from what was not true. It's some things that we've heard our parents say, or our caregivers say, or even, we've all had these events where, let's say we were kids, we probably don't remember them consciously, but let's say we were kids and I don't know, we fell, we had a boo-boo, we wanted the attention from mama, but she's busy. And in the moment, let's say she's just kind of a little bit stressed, she says, wait, I can't be there for you. And internally the child will make a decision, because when we're children, everything is about us. People are happy, it's because of me. People are upset or sad, it's my fault. And so we'll make up these beliefs, such as the example I was giving, that, if I'm hurt, I'm not worthy of attention. And then we'll kind of start forming a belief around that unknowingly and kind of carry that. And then the patterns is going to repeat themselves in our life. We'll find partners that might treat us, in a way that we feel unworthy, or we might not ask for or apply for jobs that would be paying us, an amount of resources that we deserve for a level of skills, and kind of we're carrying this kind of unworthiness with us, and then the way that I find is so useful to help people gain awareness of subconscious beliefs. Yes, we do some deep work, but the first step to healing is always self-awareness, and it's looking at your life. What are some of the patterns that are repeating in your life? Whether it could be in your intimate relationships? Are you always attracting the same partners? Are you always kind of feeling a certain way, after the honeymoon is kind of gone, and or in your job, with your colleagues, start looking for patterns. And patterns are very, in a way, they're very like mathematical. They're kind of repetitive and predictive. So when you start having that awareness, it becomes easier to see what's not working for you and to have then the will to transform that. So in really something that I've noticed is if we're going to put healing on a simple 3-step kind of process, the first step is self-awareness. You can't go around that. Nobody who's put their head in the sand ever got anywhere. So self-awareness. The second step is transformation. And this is where we're going to talk about transformation of subconscious beliefs and heavy emotions. And then the third step is wholeness. Because really what we're healing is pieces of ourselves that seem to be broken, or pieces of our psyche or our emotions that are not aligned. And that's why they're dragging our energy. If we're carrying this belief of unworthiness, yeah, we can be joyful and have some energy, but deep down we're going to have we're carrying this ton of bricks, of unworthiness. And by letting go of that ton of bricks, it's like, poof, our energy can come back in wholeness. It's like we're putting one more piece of the puzzle together. And when we feel whole, we feel in peace, we feel grounded, we feel present, we feel intentional. Our body regains vitality, flexibility, strength. There's nothing like the feeling of wholeness. And that to me is true healing on a physical, emotional, spiritual level.
Something that comes to mind is just from my experience with you is when you start to do this work and you start to fix what's broken or acknowledge what's broken, and then you're finding ways to release these heavy emotions, you want to be more present. You want to live your life. You want to be doing just mundane things in your environment because you're not in so much pain and you don't feel like you need to distract yourself or numb yourself. Like, I'm drinking less. I'm paying attention to my kids more. I'm just wanting to notice more in my life than look at my phone or drink the alcohol. Not that, like, I'm still using my phone and I'm still drinking here or there, but it's just different. I don't feel like that weight as much.
You have more energy to do things. You're not trying to fill a void. You want to be present. You feel like life is happening for you and not to you, and you want to soak up every minute. And by drinking or being on your phone, numbing these things, it's almost like you're missing those precious moments, is what I found. And also, Catherine, with working with you, right, that's 3-step process. I feel that, and I want to thank you for giving me that wholeness and helping me find that within myself. And that first step really has been awareness, right? The practices that you walked us through, I say we because Andrea and I both worked with you for different reasons. And my reason was really, okay, I'm working with a practitioner to heal the physical side of me. And now we got to do that mindset work, right? You have to fully believe that you can heal. And that's where our work together came into play. But I would love for you to kind of talk about someone who is in that awareness stage. What could be some simple tools that they could utilize? You know, it sounds great, okay, these 3 steps, but they're kind of monster steps and they take working with someone to help guide them through. So let's kind of start with that awareness and uncovering these subconscious beliefs. What are some simple, maybe not so simple, but some ways that people can kind of become conscious of those subconscious beliefs?
Yeah, and it's a great place to start to become conscious. I mean, obviously, subconscious means it's hidden from you, and your subconscious mind loves you so much that it will not present a memory unless it knows that you are ready to transform it or that you have the tools to transform it. So memories are suppressed for that reason, to protect you. So, you know, the deep work that we've been doing together, I really recommend it to anybody. I mean, I've done it myself, and this is how I accelerated the healing from Lyme disease. And so I would say you can't really bypass that deep work if you're really intentional about feeling that true freedom and wholeness. And to start with self-awareness, when I think of my own road or pathway, I really wish that people had told me about the power of negative emotions and the impact of suppressing my truth on my physical and mental energy. Heck, I could have spared myself a great big Lyme disease. But, when we're talking about lifting the weight of emotions have a density, they have a vibration. And so if, for you two ladies and those who are listening right now, I would invite you to, let's say, think about a moment where perhaps you felt not so great about yourself, maybe less than, or self-doubt, and kind of adopt that posture and feel how that feels in your body. Oftentimes we'll be kind of slouching or looking down, or, and for me, I can almost feel like there's a tap at the base of my spine. It's like my vital energy kind of leaks down, and the body can really, it's a state, and it's the emotion, that unworthiness. So one of the things that I like for people to be aware of is, how does your body feel? Your body doesn't lie. So if you were to just kind of test it right now, let's say you go to a moment where you were feeling self-doubt or not so great about yourself, and, tell me how, like in 1 or 2 words, how does that feel in your body?
Heavy.
Dark,
slouched.
Dark. Cloudy.
Bleh.
Yeah. Bleh. Yes. And notice where you're feeling this heavy and that in your body, and this slouch and kind of cloudiness. Just notice where that emotion kind of resides in your body. And for those who are listening, I invite you to do this exercise quickly, because these are things that happen on the subconscious level, but the body will feel it as if, this is happening and it's the end of the world. And to kind of record, make yourself like a mental note. How does that feel in your body when you have dense emotion? And then let's switch gear and think about a moment. Let's say that you had the greatest joy in your life, and you were perhaps feeling so loved and supported or confident. And then just kind of take that posture. If you go back into that moment as if it's happening right now, and you think back about, oh yeah, what were you thinking back then? And what was the posture you were holding yourself? And you kind of go back to that moment, because really time and space is a mental construct, because we can go back to like a past memory or a future memory. We can travel through time and space just like this, right? Through our mind. So if you were to embody a joyful place of your life, tell me in 1 or 2 words, how does that feel in your body, and where does that reside in your body?
I would say uplifting, kind of like in my chest, my heart.
Like energized, bright, lighter.
Yeah.
For sure.
So you can feel it right away. And oftentimes heavy emotions will have kind of this contraction, heavy feeling where you want to just kind of roll yourself in the ball in kind of protection. And lighter, more vibrant emotion will have this expanded energy where you just feel like your pigeon chest comes out and you're looking up with so much joy and confidence in life. So, I mean, obviously I'm exaggerating, but for the purpose of self-awareness, I would say to people, a quick tip is to start noticing in their body, how does heavy emotion feel and where that is, and how does light emotion and, joyful emotion live and where that is, so that they can start picking up on things and then decide to transform them. Because, some of the patterns that I see happening with, heavy emotions is when you live your life according to how other people want you to live. that feels so constrictive. And that was one of my things, staying in the nurse practitioner job that felt like it was closing a box on me. And the more I tried to stay in there, the sicker I became with Lyme. Or when you find yourself doubting what you're going to say, or kind of reserved or too shy to express your opinion or to talk about your desires or your needs, or thinking they might not be important or that you might be rejected. So kind of that holding back, that brings a heaviness, not just of the emotion, but whatever you're holding back. Or if you're passively accepting what someone is saying when your inside is yelling like, no way, so those are, some examples when you may feel stressed or tense or anxious or very tired, almost like feeling weak or total lack of motivation. And that's when the box of cookies or the chips are really tempting. So does that help to bring in a little bit more tangible ways of conscious belief and how they may be, or the emotions, how they may be expressed?
Yeah, it's tuning into how your body feels, paying attention to those signals that it's giving you. The body knows best. It's trying to protect you. And
yep.
I think something that I found super powerful is any symptom I'm having, it's a signal, it's a sign, and it's begging for my attention to listen to it. And then once you start questioning it, well, then it gets rid of its power, and you can kind of tune into, well, what are you trying to tell me? So would you say, Catherine, that's kind of the next step is to feel it, acknowledge it, and then to question it? Or where would you go from there?
Well, totally. And, most people are afraid of feeling their emotions, or they're afraid to get in touch with them because they're either afraid that it's going to last forever or that it's going to take them to their kind of death, if we go to the extreme. And so most people will resist it. I would say, there's this saying, feeling is healing. Yes. And how do you do that if you've never done that? Then or if you're not in the habit of doing that. I love how you put it together, Brooke, of self-awareness and getting the signal and then questioning that. One thing that I really love doing is asking yourself questions. Most people don't ask themselves the right question. They'll ask, let's say there's a symptom, does this mean I'm getting worse? Or what does this mean? And they're asking it from a place of fear and feeling threatened. And I get it, with an illness, it's scary. But let's say it's something that's happening in their intimate relationship, and they might ask themselves, well, why is this person so rude with me? The way we ask the question will orient our subconscious mind to make us right, in the sense of, if you ask the question, why is this person so rude to me? What did I do wrong? Your subconscious mind will make you bring a circumstance in your life that will prove you wrong. So the first step after, questioning the signal is ask yourself an empowered question, and I love to bring in curiosity instead of judgment. And curiosity is really the antidote to judgment. You can't judge when you're curious. And so, for example, let's say in the case of somebody with symptoms, and it's a signal, the question could be, oh, what can I be even more aware of that my body is trying to tell me right now? And notice how there's kind of a lack of emotional charge. There's a lack of fear. It's just like, oh, I'm the ally of my body, and I get to listen to what it's saying because I trust that I'll figure things out. Either I'll get some help or I can figure things out. Or if somebody is like rude in their relationship and they don't like being treated this way, an empowered question could be something like, oh, well, how can I reconnect with this person in such a way that feels mutually respectful, kind of thing, right? So it's speaking in the direction of what you desire, which is something that most of us are not good at because we've just been trained to speak about what is. Oh, this person is just so rude. Yeah, and then guess what? The more you speak about what is, the more you align your vibration with what is, even if it's something you don't like, the more you're going to attract that. So it's really questioning And this is where we can talk about the cascade. It's questioning the meaning that you give to events, symptoms, circumstances. And this is where the key of awareness will pay off the most.
I know from working with you that my experience was that I personally was trying to protect myself by getting ahead of people hurting me. And so I would be looking for the ways they were going to hurt me because I wanted to be in front of it. And then I would find more drama. I would find more rude comments. I would find more things. And I considered myself to be an optimistic, positive person. But in reality, I was so fixated on not getting hurt or burned or neglected or abandoned that I was finding it everywhere I turned in every single person. But it was all me looking for it.
Yeah. And what you focus on is what your brain is going to give you, right? There's the reticular activation system that we've talked about in past episodes. And Catherine, we've worked together on it. It's this idea of what you put into the universe, what you speak is what you get, because you're telling your brain what to look for and what to find, and it wants to prove you right. And right, it's that feeling of exactly what you said, Catherine. When you're curious with it, it's lighter. You don't have that judgment. When you think of things that are judgy, criticism, people, rude comments, it just weighs you down. And so if you can flip that switch and you have the power of what you give meaning to, you can make it lighter, and then you feel good and you want to feel better. And how can I get more of this feeling? And Catherine, you have an awesome cause and effect cascade. And so I'd love for you to walk that through so our audience can kind of understand what Andrea and I have witnessed firsthand.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing some of your, personal stories and kind of bringing it into the tangible realness. Because as you know, coaching is more felt than explained.
Yes.
But so this cascade is really, I find, one of the key elements to be aware of for all of our mental and emotional health. It's really, there's an event that happens and two people could look at the same event and they give a total different meaning to it. Okay. So there's going to be an event, and then according to how the person is, their programming, their kind of childhood subconscious beliefs that turn into adult beliefs, they're going to look through this pair of glasses that will give a meaning to that event. And sometimes I like to give the example of, let's say you walk into the office and the secretary is kind of not looking at you and kind of, short and rude. Well, one person could look at it and say to themselves, oh, what did I do wrong? I must have done something or said something. Is she upset with me? And so this person is going to go down a certain cascade. Another person could look at the secretary and think, oh my gosh, I wonder if she's going through something difficult. I wonder how I could support her. Maybe I'll bring her a cupcake for lunch, or I'll ask what's going on later and give her an opportunity to speak. So this person is going to go down a totally different cascade. So the cascade is the event is happening, and then there's thoughts, like the internal discourse that I was just describing, where we give meaning. And it's really that meaning that will bring the emotion. So the person who's thinking they've done something wrong, that might bring an emotion of, fear or unworthiness or anxiety or worry, and so they're going to go down the cascade of that. The other person might bring an emotion of compassion, of empathy, so the emotion will be completely dependent on the meaning that we give to the event. And then following the emotion is going to be the behavior. The person who's thinking they've done something wrong, maybe they'll dodge the office of the secretary, or they'll try to do people pleasing all day, or they'll tiptoe around and feeling all stressed. And so the emotion will infuse into the behavior. So with the example of the two people earlier with the secretary, the one who felt the emotion of compassion and empathy, their behavior might be more in the sense of, approaching the secretary opening up the conversation, being a listener, doing some acts of services or kind of, tender loving care. And then the cascade, after the behavior comes the result. So the result is, let's say in one case, the one who was feeling unworthy or they did something wrong, they're dodging, they're maybe being a little bit short with the secretary not to disturb her or whatever. And then the result might be more shortness because the secretary might not know why the person is acting this way. So the result will come back to prove the meaning right. See, she still ignored me. She's still rude. That still means I'm unworthy or I did something wrong, versus the person who's been compassionate. And let's say the secretary is having a good cry and they feel relieved and they say, thank you so much. You know what? I didn't have anybody to talk about it with and I wasn't going to tell anybody. So that means a lot to me. He came to me. So the result will be that the person who was compassionate and empathetic felt that the meaning was reinforced, that sometimes people are rude because they're going through some tough times and I shouldn't take it personal. And maybe I'm going to be the only person allowing them to voice their emotions that day. And so that's kind of the cascade that is a self-fulfilling prophecy. The event happens, the thought, which is the meaning that we give to this event according to our programming, according to our subconscious beliefs. The meaning brings the emotion brings the behavior brings the result that will revalidate, reaffirm the meaning that we gave. So it's really powerful when we understand that this is just kind of a cascade that happens quickly, but when we slow things down, the place where we can have a truly transformational, empowerment is in the meaning, and the meaning that we give. And one of the things I like to tell people is, please don't believe everything your mind is telling you. Don't believe all the stories that are all up there, because most of them, unless they're intentional and they make your energy expand and you feel joy and all that because you were intentional, most stories will feel heavy and dense and contracted and kind of in a repeated pattern. You become obsessed with that story. So that's when it's time to pay attention and say, not true story, and change the story and get some help if you need help to change that story. Yeah.
I love that example. And even as you're explaining it for those watching on YouTube, you can see when you have that negative story, you're hunched over. When you have the curiosity story, you're more expansive and caring. And who doesn't love feeling that way? But I think it relates to any relationship, right? Your romantic relationship, you notice your significant other is being a little short, and instead of, what's his problem? And then that's that negative spiral. You stop the story and you say, what's going on? And you're curious about it. And what I'm hearing is that you're not attaching yourself to that meaning, right? You're saying this person, it's their emotions. And by me being curious, I can see what's going on in their head, that I'm not in control of their emotions, but I can be curious with it. So knowing that only you have the power to control that story you're telling yourself, asking yourself if it's true, but then when you feel it in your body, it's the power of the pause and not going into that story right away, I think is something so powerful that I've learned and that I'm putting into practice. Is when I feel that way, like I'm so in tune with my body now, when I feel that constricting energy, it's like, okay, what thought am I thinking? Let me pause. Okay, is that even true? No. All right, let's move on. Let's pick something else.
Or I like the pause and with this example, am I making the secretary's problem about me? It has nothing to do with me. We're all having our own individual experiences. And if my husband's huffing around the house, recently, since working with you, Catherine, I don't take it personally. I'm like, oh, he's going through something. There's something going on. It has nothing to do with me. He's in his own head. And if it does have something to do with me, I can ask. But I think it's coming kind of with that blank slate of, I'm starting to attach that meaning. Why does it feel heavy? Why do I have this heaviness on me? What am I saying to myself to give me this heaviness? And how can I come with an open mind to a conversation with myself or whoever I'm dealing with?
And how beautiful that we have that power to release that heavy emotion, that it's no one else's job but our own.
Yeah.
I think that is so empowering.
And I love that you two ladies understand the benefit of releasing and transforming that story. Because really what we're doing is we're taking that heavy emotion, and by being curious about it, instead of locking it in the closet or pounding it somewhere or putting that emotion into cookies that we eat without control, we dare pausing and having the meaning of it. You guys understand the benefit of the temporary discomfort of facing that emotion and asking yourself that question for the benefit of how well you feel after. I'm going to say something, and I hope it's received the right way by your audience. But I mean, I've been guilty of that myself in the past. And if you watch the documentary, What the Bleep Do We Know? It talks a little bit about the molecules of emotions and the law of attraction and quantum physics. Is very interesting. But in a way, we're all a little bit addicted to our stories and to our drama because they serve a certain purpose. They bring us more of what we don't like, which gives more reason to kind of tell that story over and over. But really, when we stop and ask ourselves, what is this giving me? Like, I remember back when I was building my business, my coaching business, I remember telling everybody how hard it was and how I was working hard and weekends and evenings. And then my business coach was like, you realize that you're shooting yourself in the foot by telling this story over and over. You're not making it easier on yourself, right? And I was like, oh, yeah. But then there was some compulsion of me wanting to tell that story. And I was like, why is it that I want to tell that story so much? What do I get from telling that story? And then I just kind of paused and stayed with it. It was uncomfortable. But then I realized, I've been telling that story because I need the validation that, yes, I'm doing a good job. Yes. And I used to get validation from what I was doing, which is something I uncovered in my own personal work, that this is how I felt love or self-esteem. So I had to do more in order to feel like I was deserving or worthy of something. So when I understood that, I was like, oh, okay, I'm looking for that validation. I'm looking for that acknowledgement that that my work is not going unnoticed. Well, what if I started noticing my own work and giving myself this kind of pat on the back saying, you know what, celebrate. Maybe you did something that was small. Maybe you did something that was big, but you keep making forward progress. That's me talking to myself. And every day in every way, I get better. Every day in every way, I get stronger. I get wealthier. I get happier. And so I stopped needing to tell that story. So when I say we're addicted to our stories, it's not addicted in the way that, like a drug. It's because there's an underlying need that's not being answered, that's not being fulfilled. Therefore, it continues to be present. So this is one thing I tell people is listen to the things that you say over and over. What is it that you, quote unquote, complain about or that you're unhappy about? And what's the need underneath that? And what if you were to start fulfilling that need and telling a different story? What kind of doors would open for you as you align yourself with what you want instead of what you no longer want?
Yeah, I think it's that familiarity of, I know what I'm going to get from this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know what result comes from this story, and whether I like it or not, it's familiar, And so, I mean, working with you, I was scared of who I would become without my stories, even if they weren't serving me well. I was like, if I do feel like I'm worthy of success, what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Like, will I have the same circle of friends? Will that change? Will my relationship change? Like, what would happen if I was more in tune with, or just more peaceful in general with assuming the best in people? Like, am I going to get hurt? Like, am I going to feel dumb that I didn't see something coming? Or like, am I going to get hurt more often? I think there's mystery when we try to change or up level, like as much as it's good for you, it's kind of scary.
It's super scary. And for me, it was these past 4 years, I've been sick. I don't have answers. This is my identity. I don't know who I am without being tied to this medical mystery. So it's all about that unfamiliarity, but that's where the beauty happens. And we've experienced that, Andrea and I. But Catherine, I'd love for you to kind of explain why there is growth in the discomfort, right? Why by dealing with these emotions that they may feel uncomfy, it leads to so many amazing things. And you have this 90-second rule with emotions. And so can you kind of share with us what that all entails?
Yes, totally. So like we were saying, most people are afraid of feeling their emotions, and they're going to hold it. They're going to like hold it in or resist it. But whatever you resist persists, right? So what's been kind of studied is, by Louise Hay or Carolyn Mace, it's where emotions that are stuck, where they create dysfunction or even illness in the body. And sometimes, you can have a whole chakra that's completely out of whack, or a couple of them, and there's ways to actually see the balance of the chakras. And this is something I'm learning at Quantum University with this little device called a BioWell. And I'm like, whoa, you can see the chakras if they're, anyway, so I'm getting ahead of myself here, but.
Wait, time out. What's a chakra for those who don't know?
Oh, yes. Thanks. So in the Ayurvedic, the medicine in India, in the Ayurvedic tradition, the chakras are energy centers along the body. So kind of following the spine, if you will. And there are 7 of them in the physical body, but really kind of 12 different chakra. And when there is something that's out of alignment, or if there's an emotion that's held into a specific area, let's say I'm thinking solar plexus, and this is the seat of self-esteem and empowerment, confidence. If someone is feeling low self-esteem and they're having emotions related to low self-esteem, it's going to go right into the solar plexus chakra, which is right where your stomach is. And it's almost like, like you feel like gutted, like you got this knife going into the solar plexus. And so that's how emotions can actually live in the body, because the person is not willing to feel them, face them. They're afraid of facing or of feeling them. They're afraid it's going to invade the whole, person and be a tsunami, or they're going to lose control, or it's going to be like that permanently. But the neurosciences studies have shown that if we become like a clear, let's say we're like this clear tube, like this glass tube, and we would let the emotion go through us and not try to control it, not try to hide it, deny it, whatever, resist it. It would take 90 seconds and it would be done. It's kind of, you go through it and it's done. Think about kids, how pure they are when they haven't learned yet to withhold their emotions, or don't do that in public, or this, they'll do a full bacon crisis on the floor at the grocery store because mama doesn't want to buy them these candies. And if you leave them alone, a minute and a half, and it'll be done. They'll get back up, and then life as usual. Of course, for mom, that will feel like 15 years, but the kid, because they don't hold back, right, until they learn to do so. So it's the same for us. If we allow ourselves to go feel the feels, 90 seconds, and it's going to be over. Sometimes I remember telling my husband that to not be afraid of my emotions, because if I can just talk to him and let that wave, it's going to be done like this. Whereas if I'm tiptoeing and trying to make it pretty and this and that, of course I'm polite and we work collaboratively through things because obviously emotions come up. But I used to tell him, don't be afraid. Just you'll see the quicker we go into it, it's done. It's like, when you feel like you've got an indigestion and you're kind of feeling like nauseous for hours. Now you just put that finger in that throat and blah, it comes out, and it's done.
It sounds like kind of the power of not letting things build up in the closet, like nipping them in the butt when they happen, acknowledging it. And I heard something a while ago, and I don't remember who it was from, but it was like emotions are like children. They just need to be acknowledged and validated, and then they carry on. And it's like when you say it like that, it's simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Something I'm thinking of now, because I'm getting more in tune with working with you, where things are in my body. So a lot of times when you just explained the negative emotion, typically to me, it's like in my gut, I feel this punch. I feel this uneasiness in my gut. And then when I feel good, it's like up in my chest and it's my heart. And so I'm curious, knowing those things, if you start to get in tune with, okay, I am telling the story over and over. And when I think about it, my gut is off. What's the power of knowing where it is in your body, and how do you get more of it or release it? How does that work?
So the emotion is really happening, the feeling is happening in the body. So, and the body will never lie. That's, if you think about just subtle changes in you, and if you become more perceptive of these things, it'll really, really help to catch it earlier before it becomes something bigger. One of the things that I like doing, and it's just, a coaching technique, but that when an emotion is kind of stuck in the body and you're really feeling it, let's say it's in your gut and everything feels like it's maybe twirling or twisting in there, I like to just kind of extract it, which might sound weird. But since it's emotion is energy in motion, it's just energy. So it's like if we were to take it from your stomach and then bring it into your hand so that it would come into like a symbol, a word, or a color, the first thing that comes to mind, that's when we're interacting with the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind will always talk in symbols, so it will never make sense to the conscious mind. And then sometimes, there's going to be a symbol that appears. Oh, there's a cloud there. Okay, what does a cloud mean? Well, then you find the meaning for you, and then you kind of find the empowerment behind that for you. Oh, well, but maybe the cloud is that it doesn't matter the amount of clouds there is in the sky. I know there's always a sun above it. Oh, and what does that bring? A sense of what? Well, a sense of hope. Okay. So hope was really the message of that twirling thing in your gut. So how about we put hope back in your gut? And literally people will feel it. And I work on Zoom and I do it on the screen and people are like, wow. I'm pretty sure I've done it with you ladies, yes. But to kind of put back something, we literally took a heavy emotion and we alchemized it by finding the message, the meaning, the uplifting message that it had. And then we put that back into the body and the body's like, that feels better. It's like we did a reframe, not for the mind, but for the body,
I feel like every episode now it's going from mindset work to body work.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like every episode's going back to how everything feels in your body, how the body keeps the score, how the body tells the truth. It's so interesting.
Yeah. And that energy is just emotion. Emotion is energy in motion. It has me thinking about, I'm doing Tony Robbins has this priming morning exercise that he does. And at the end of it, it's grabbing onto any good feeling, like any moment of gratitude, of hope, of accomplishment, of, moments with your significant other, your business partner, any good feeling, and literally just grabbing it and putting it in your chest and saying yes. Yeah. And it sounds so silly, but after it, I'm like, I'm light, I'm empowered. And I think it comes down to being open to do these things. Like they're not complicated. It's the ego being like, that's silly. You look silly.
You don't know what you're doing.
You don't know what you're doing. Yeah. And it's like, shut up. Let me just do the thing that's going to make me feel better and stop trying to overcomplicate it.
What makes me think of something silly is our other coach, Kara. who just happens to be Catherine's best friend also, fun fact. Just powerhouse of coaches Brooke and I have. But one thing she talks about is like to release these feelings or to move through them is like dancing. But she's like, no, not like a cool dance in the mirror where you think you look awesome. She's like, I want you to shake it out. I want you to move your body so you look so weird and strange. And it's like, part of you resists it because it does look and feel weird. But if there's some science behind moving emotion through your body and healing by just shaking it out, like, why not?
Yeah, it's to change your story, you change your state. That's what I've learned in this Tony Robbins seminar I've been obsessing over, is you want to change your story. Well, you have to change your physical state and your physiology and the way you move your body, the way you move your face, the way you speak. It's what you focus on. And it all comes down to like almost manipulating how you want to feel. Like you change that energy that's moving through you. And of course it's going to be positive, it's going to be lighter, because when you think of those emotions, how do they feel in your body? They feel light. When you want to feel worry and hatred, it feels dark and heavy. And so moving your body in a way that's energizing is going to bring you these good feelings. And then that's what you focus on and you get more of.
There's literally studies that have been done with posture and self-esteem or confidence. Mm-hmm. They would have subjects before going to a job interview, and they would have some of them, sit with their arms behind their head and, chest back and legs kind of open and kind of chill out versus none of that. And then they found out that the candidates that were embodying empowering poses or postures were more likely to get the job. And there's even a TED Talk from Amy Cuddy, Cuddy, about the victory pose. Mm-hmm. And there's something really empowering about the victory pose, which is just to bring your two arms above your head in kind of this V shape, like you're finishing this marathon and and there's even studies with people who are blind, who've been blind all of their life, so they've never seen, people do this victory pose, and they will naturally adopt this pose when they're happy or joyful. So there's something in our biology about the big and victory and
expansive.
Yes, exactly.
Jess and I are playing with high-fiving our kids in the mornings. I talked to him about
the high-five habit.
Yeah, Mel Robbins just talked about this. And I told Justin, I'm like, it helps with confidence and a positive mindset starting your day. He's like, why not? Like, they're coming down the stairs. We are high-fiving our kids every day. Like, if it works, like, why not try it? Or if there's any type of good feelings associated with something, and who cares if you look silly?
Yeah. It has me thinking too about the Superwoman or Superman pose, how studies show just standing like that for 2 minutes, the start of your morning or anytime you want to turn your day around. I think it's just expanding your chest, your heart.
Yeah. I'm curious, Catherine, for you, like, what are some of your day-to-day practices you do? I just want to like a picture in your life of what you do to get your energy up.
Like your morning routine, or if you need a switch throughout the day.
Or literally anything you do. I just want to know everything you do.
Well, I get up, I brush my teeth. Okay, no, not these details. I really have a practice of movement, and it can be yoga, biking. Really, for me, and this is something I'm learning in the Ayurvedic, in Siddha Veda, my dosha, my body type is Vata. And Vata is movement. So I need to move literally so that I can get my day in motion. And it can be just gentle exercises or things like that. I like to do some daily affirmations. So I have these kind of list of affirmations, and I kind of go through them. Sometimes I just put the list on the ground and doing my sun salutation. Oh yeah, I'm always attracting, I'm attracting prosperity, my body's full of vitality. So I do these affirmations. I've recently acquired pulse electromagnetic field device, which is something that I've just learned in my PhD. And this is something I'm going to talk about in the master classes that are to come. But this is literally recharging your body recharging your cells at the cellular level. And there's like tons of studies around this, 30,000 research studies in NASA. It's PEMF, pulse electromagnetic therapy, electromagnetic field therapy. And there's like a ton of indication for all kinds of stuff, increasing energy, better sleep, better mood, stronger bones, stronger immunity. I mean, you name it. So now I zap myself in the morning.
There's like mats too, right? I've heard. Yes. Yeah. But yours is a device that you zap yourself with?
No, it's a full body mat.
Oh, it is? Okay. We're thinking about this.
I just call it the zapper. And I've kind of now recalibrated to from being a full-time business owner and coach to now being a full-time student and a full-time business owner. So I'm kind of studying in the morning, but I really like to get my neurons firing and studying, in the morning when I'm at my sharpest. And then, food-wise, I have kind of 2 meals a day, and I do kind of intermittent fasting, and that's how I found that my body works the best. I take a trucker's breakfast in the morning because I need some meat. But really, I think that the most amazing change that I've seen from being a coach, and even in recent years, is to be as present as possible at every moment. And whether it's when I'm coaching a client, when I'm eating mindfully, when I'm being with my husband, when I'm on my bike. Oh, on my bike, I do all kinds of affirmation. I'm so grateful that I get to work with amazing aligned clients that, understand the work that I do, and they welcome the transformation and they want to get further. So I do that on my bike. But I'm really being so much more present than I used to. I mean, I think back in my teenage and 20s, I mean, I would run into like the door frame because I was so not present. And I think this has made the biggest difference in my life. I'll do a little meditation here and there, not in a particular time of the day. But really these things, connection with my husband, my significant people, good sleep, and movement. I mean, life is simple, really.
I was just going to say the simple things.
It really is. Brooke and I, we talk about our sessions with you, and it all always comes back to like these one word things like love, peace, ease. And it's so interesting because we complicate things, and we're constantly trying to figure things out, and relationships. And I just think like you have a way of making it so simple that like how is that serving you to question all of these things? Like, what is the root of what you actually want? And just taking your time to get there. It sounds so simple, but just being present is the answer. Like, if you just slow down and you focus on whether it's your internal world or external world, the answers are just right there, and it's so simple.
I think it's also getting simpler for us because we've done that deep work first, right? Of even acknowledging it and understanding what emotions or what stories we've been telling ourselves since we were little, that's weighing us down and allowing us to not be present. And so that's why I want to plug Catherine's work. We do it every episode, I swear. I'm doing it again because I feel like I couldn't fully be present because there was so much emotional baggage and weight, like you had said, Catherine, that those bricks pulling me back. And now it's having that trust of, I just have to show up because everything I need is within me. And one of the biggest things that I would talk to Catherine about is I'm trying to consume all of these studies and this learning and seminars. And I would say to Catherine, I feel like I'm not retaining anything that I'm learning. And she'd say, yes, you are. Stop questioning it. It's in you. It's within you. And when you need it, it will come up because your body is there to take care of you. And it's really that simple. Yes, it is. So I think that more work you do, you condition it in your body to actually believe it and to have that pause becomes so natural where you can then question your story once you do that deep work.
Yeah. And I think you said it so beautifully that because you've dared doing the deeper work where, you know, together we've tapped into what energy was blocked and we released what was calling to be released in order to accelerate that emotional and physical healing in such a way that now when you encounter, you know, challenges or adversity, it's so much easier. It's like you know, when you've done a big cleanup of that dirty bathroom and then afterwards you just kind of clean a little bit every week or you take out the trash every once in a while, you know, more often than, so it's easier because you're working on such a cleaner foundation and you know, by transcending these deeper, you know, bricks that you were carrying, that's how you're able to go to the next step to implement what you've learned. Oftentimes you're implementing or retaining subconsciously, and I tell exactly what you say. You will retain what you need to, and it'll be available to you when you need it. So if you kind of start with that premise, and by the way, this is a great reminder for myself as I'm studying 2 programs right now, and sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, I should be retaining more, but then to trust that whatever needs to be retained is there, and I'll get what I expect in life, and so that will integrate in a deeper level, and then you implement, you integrate, you bridge to, you know, with your actions, and then more and more you live that aligned living, that aligned, coherent life that feels so good and whole and so much more empowering and peaceful. Yeah.
Yeah. You're free from the baggage. It's like the bricks eventually become stones. The stones become twigs. And then eventually you're free, or something holds you down and you have the tools that you need, and you know that you have the power within you to release that baggage and not let it weigh you down, to handle it when it happens.
Yeah. And it's really my objective to empower the person to be able to do that for themselves, you know. So, I mean, as much as I love working with, you know, with you ladies, it's my joy to see that how what you've learned, you're applying it to, and it's working, you know. I want to emphasize how important it is to do that deep work with someone who is comfortable with uncomfortable emotion. Not everyone is. And personally, I see my work as, you know, we're going into that dark forest, and I'm holding the lantern, and you don't want to go. And for sure, if you were by yourself, you would not go there unless there was a wolf running after you and that was your only choice. But it's like, no, let's go. We're going into that dark forest. And yes, it looks scary, but I'm promising you that's where the treasure, that's where the gold is. And that's where we find it. And that's why also the dark isn't scary anymore after that, you know? But you got to walk that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that you help have less judgment on the darkness that we have. Like, I think there's shame around how dark we all are. At least I feel this way. Like, I feel like everybody has this darkness in them of their insecurities or their fears or their judgment of themselves or judgment of others. And having you there, it's like an acceptance that it's there and we all have it. And if we shine the lantern on it, we can just talk about it and make it less dark, you know? And it's like, it felt like we both had a flashlight, you know?
Yeah. And you're also shining light on these memories that were at the core where these limiting beliefs actually come from, right? Like going back to when we were 5 years old, and these memories that we didn't even remember were there because they were so far in our subconscious. And now, because we have someone coming with us with a flashlight, we're ready to see them in a different light, give them a different meaning. And then, Catherine, you talk about how you give them a different meaning, and then it's that ripple effect that it goes then through all of the events, and now it's conditioned in you. Can you just quick talk about how that works? Like how you give these events that happened years and years ago a different meaning, and then it just kind of sticks with that meaning in your body?
Yeah. And that's the beauty of doing this work, which, by the way, the antidote to darkness is light. If you walk into a room and it's dark, what do? You turn the switch on, right? And then the darkness dissolves. But the beauty of working with the subconscious mind and finding the root of where a limiting belief, a subconscious belief has kind of imprinted there, and we go visit that event with a higher perspective, with the perspective of there's a gift there, there's a lesson there, and we're able to kind of go back into time and gather this new perspective. And now, let's say the 3-month-old realizes, oh, it's just because mom was overwhelmed. It's not because I didn't have a right to exist, right? And then so afterwards, we grow back. And when you re-imprint the meaning and the emotion in an early memory in the formative years, after that, all of the events that happened in your life, they're kind of like a pearl necklace. So it's like if you remove the first pearl and then you kind of all of the other events that you're going to go visit them in light of these new meanings, you're going to go back to, let's say, the high school, and this is how, all guided kind of visualization, but you're going to go back to, let's say, the high school yard and schoolyard, and then instead of feeling like you didn't belong there, you didn't have a right to exist, maybe you sense that, oh, my friend too is having doubts about themselves, so it's not about me. And then you kind of re-imprint all of these events in your life past where that emotion was, and you liberate it, like literally, like you liberate that. And then what's left when you think back on your past is a good memory. It's no longer the thing that kind of hooked you in 3rd grade when so-and-so said something to you. No, that's no longer there. And that is so liberating.
I always feel like it's easy to go for the hard emotion or the dark emotion, right? Like thinking about your childhood, you always pick out the negativity. The parent wasn't there, or, my mom did this to me, or dad said this to me. And I think it's easy to go towards those negative emotions. Do you think so too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious why that is.
Well, if we go to the equation of at any given time in our life, we are either at cause or at effect. And for at effect is being in the victim seat, and at cause it's being in the captain of your own ship, kind of taking responsibility for yourself. So when we're kids, we don't necessarily have the cognitive or the capacity or the experience to be at cause. So to us, when we're kids, life happens to us. People treat us a certain way. We see things as they are. So anytime a kind of a limiting belief or a heavier emotion sets in, it's because we're at the effect. We're in the victim. And then that carries into adulthood. And when we are at effect and we're victim of circumstances, especially, people treat me this way, or how come, we've all had some examples perhaps in our family of people being in the victim side of the equation. And the thing is, when we're in the victim side, it's impossible to transform. We have to come back at cause, because victim, we have no control. We're helpless, hopeless. And here are kind of 5 signs that someone is in the victim mentality. They'll blame someone else. They will justify, or they will justify or give excuses. That kind of goes together. They will rationalize things. They will deny it, or they will minimize it. And so this is the victim seat, where the person feels like life is happening to them, versus in the cause and side of the equation, where the person feels like life is happening for them. And how do we know that we are at cause, which is kind of what we're doing with the transformational work, is we're going from effect back to cause. But when we're at cause, we take full responsibility for everything that happens in our life. And so you'll know that somebody is at cause when they say, they're asking, how is this happening for me? How is this helping me grow? They feel less distraught. There's less emotional distress when someone is taking full responsibility, although it might be uncomfortable, but they're less kind of distressed and in the emotion and the drama as with somebody in the victim seat, right? So someone in the cause side of the equation will be more present, and they'll be tapping into themselves to hear their inner voice or their intuitive guidance, their own wisdom for guidance. Paradoxically, someone at the cause side of the equation will also kind of surrender with faith to something greater. That knowing that they've been intentional to, repair, put forth something, and then kind of sending that in the universe, giving it in the hands of God, and kind of expecting that things will turn out the way they want because they're at cause. But there's a certain level of surrender, and surrender not in a negative way, but really kind of just faith that it's going to happen. And this is where the quantum physics and the law of attraction kind of comes in together. And I really feel like quantum physics is kind of the science, and the law of attraction is kind of the spirituality, and they bridge together. So I really feel like when we are at cause is when we can harness the power of this bridged quantum law of attraction, I'll put it this way, and really witness the magic of it unfolding under our eyes. Like, I don't know, have you ever had like something you decided, like you were no longer going to do certain things? Maybe it's, you were no longer going to, let's say, spend money mindlessly. And all of a sudden you came back to the cause and you were intentional. And then, whoa, all of a sudden you're seeing opportunities, money's coming your way. Now you're clearing out some debts, and it's like, boom, 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 boom. Things are kind of aligning under your eyes, right? Because you just tapped into the quantum law of attraction by being intentional and being at cause. So you might have had experiences like this, both of you. I know you do.
It's so interesting. I love how you explain that too. And I think there's age that plays into this, right? Like you're a child and then you're an adolescent and you're, under control or like under the roof of a grown-up. And so it's like, this natural ownership kind of needs to happen as you enter the real world. But I do think there's something about, when you're a child and then you blame things on your parents or whatever, because they are in charge and created your circumstance to some extent or whatever. But a lot of adults go through their whole life being in the victim mentality, blaming and justifying and not listening. And I guess, what do you think is like the secret sauce to flipping it to ownership and being the cause? Like, does that just happen when you're ready? Or do you feel like life hits people in the face? How do people flip into ownership, do you think?
That's a great question. And I've asked myself that question, sometimes with people close to me that, it's always easier from the outside to see that they're just shooting themselves in the foot. And you're like, oh, man, if they could only, but we're not there to dictate how people should live their life. And I think it's a little bit of what you said, that life will bring them circumstances when they're ready for it. And unfortunately, what I've seen in my personal experience is it came from kind of life-changing events, whether it's an illness, an accident, a divorce, being laid off of the job. And there's a higher purpose in this adversity. There's really a gift in that adversity. And somebody could stay a victim of that and never heal from that, or they can be invited to see it under a different lens. So some of the things that I like to do is to reframe. reframing means just to see something under another frame. It's like you're changing the frame of your glass. You're putting different glasses and changing the frame of your filter. So without being kind of preachy or telling people what to do, because that doesn't work. If it had to work in medicine to tell people what to do, it would have worked a long time ago, And who are we to tell people what to do? Because we're not in their shoes. But to kind of bring it under a different lens, and I like to bring like a reframe, like, okay, that's interesting that you're seeing it this way. And well, what if this person was going through kind of a hard time and really it was nothing about it? It didn't have anything to do with you. I mean, what would that be like? And kind of just bringing a new possibility that kind of takes them out of the usual frame, seeding a possibility, and maybe asking them like, okay, so I hear you that you don't like this in your life and this feels unfair. Well, how would you like to feel instead? What would you like to experience instead? And just by doing that, it's like you're taking them from it's literally like a 180-degree shift from focusing on what they no longer want to focus on what they want. And that is really powerful, even for people they're going to choose to stay there if they want to. I mean, people have free will, but it's really powerful to help them see, hey, okay, you don't want this anymore. What if you were to focus on what you want instead and figure that out? Even if it involves other people treating you a certain way, seeding the possibility that in all of these relationships, what's the common denominator? It's you. So what if you were to kind of change something from within, and then that would radiate out? So let's focus on what you want to experience instead. I think that's a really powerful way to kind of snap out of it. What do you think?
It's so powerful. It's what do you want? And you talk about behavior change, or our clients who want to lose weight or eat different, and it's, I have to do this. I need to do this. And it's, again, how does that feel in your body? Like, words have power. They have that energy. And so to switch it to, I want to, I get to, I look forward to, like, how much different does that feel? And if you could talk to yourself through that, how much different would things be, and would be a joy, wouldn't be work.
Yeah. It's so much less coercive when we say, oh, I get to do this. Wow. I'm excited about this workout that I'm going to do today, instead of I have to do this, which is like, the hand of authority, which ultimately we all choose everything that's happening in our life, whether we realize it or not.
Yeah.
Which is good to know.
I was going to say, I think it gets to a certain point where you have that crisis of, I can't do this any longer. Something needs to shift. It's either I stay here, nothing changes, or if I want something to change, I got to change. And so you're kind of forced into that ownership of, no one's coming to save me. No one cares more about me than I do. And if I want something different, I have to claim it. And it's a practice, right? We worked with you for 4 to 6 months, and Andrea and I are constantly learning and going to these seminars and wanting to learn more, because it's a constant practice. Our million-year-old brain is like, nope, survival. Nope, look for the bad, look for the bad. You have to train yourself and condition it in you to look for the good. And it's not easy, but it's worth it. And if you can make these small shifts and know that they all add up, as long as you're continuing to focus on what you want more of, it's a never-ending journey, and it's not a destination. I think that's what we learned, is it's always putting in more effort of how you want to feel and reinforcing that.
And ultimately, it's about enjoying the ride. Nobody came here to suffer, really. That's not the purpose of our life. So the deeper work, yes, it takes effort. But, once you've done some kind of deep cleansing, my husband calls it, he says the other day, he says, you realize, Catherine, that because I'm hearing you talk about what you do with your clients, and it sounds to me like a mental enema.
Yes.
And I thought, that's awesome.
Brooke, you could probably speak to that. You actually do enemas.
I got all enemas all around. I got Catherine for mental, coffee for insides. It's true though. Like this these emotions, these self-limiting beliefs that we don't even know we're aware of are holding us down, and it's just like toxic in us. Yeah. And so to cleanse that, and then what you're focusing on, if it's these positive things, or, you know, doing this work, talking it through, not letting the emotions eat you up, it's like you have that constant flow. It's a brook, it's a stream. Things are moving.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's so worth it. You know, 5 years ago when I really started this deeper work, you would tell me that my life would look like this today. I would be like, no. But it's like, wow, pinch me, someone. You know, every day I'm like, pinch me. That I'm not dreaming that this life, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's so much more joyful and peaceful and amplified and grounded and present. And there's a softness, a gentleness to this life. It just feels really good. And it's drama free most of the time. And it's like, more of this, please. And thank you.
Yeah. And hearing Andrea and I's story and your story, you know, for our listeners, know that it's possible. Like, we are proof that you can cleanse and get to, I put in quotes, the other side, but really the other side of being in that cause. And it doesn't happen overnight, but you can do something today to start that journey, right? You can follow Catherine, you can book a discovery call. And Catherine, I'd love for you to share where people can find you if they want more of you, if they want to start doing this work, where they can find you.
Yes, absolutely. I have my social media. Facebook is Catherine Gagnon, Transformational Coach. Same thing for Instagram. My website is really where people can see kind of the different programs and book a discovery session. But I think you guys have the link for the discovery session. But the website is www.catherinegagnon.ca. So it's CATHERINE, as in Georgia, AGN as in November, ON.ca. And it's just my name.ca. And shoot me an email, or if someone is just feeling ready to kind of dive deep into what's holding them back, what's holding them stuck, and into the heavy emotions, let's jump on a discovery call and start transcending these things and cleansing and feeling much, much lighter and freer. It's really amazing how quickly we can feel the weight lift. And I remember, Andrea, just quickly when you were when we were doing the work actively, and you had gone on a run after one of our session, and you were like, I'm just running like the wind. Like, you literally felt lighter and stronger. That was awesome. I was like, wow.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's really powerful when you can see instant results. You can instantly have this baggage or emotional weight off you, and you physically feel lighter. It's mind-blowing. And I also want to say too that I think, you know, this is deep stuff. This is getting into, like I said, your insecurities and fears and addressing them with a stranger. And I do think that holds us back, you know, like book a discovery session. Okay, get to your website. I'm about to click on this. Am I really going to do it? And so I just, you know, I have friends that have started working with Catherine. Brooke and I have. I've even had my husband on the session. And there is just something about you that is so inviting and warm, and you don't feel like you're blindly going in and just talking to someone that is a stranger. It feels like you've known you for years, and like, I don't even know how to explain it.
Just magical.
You are just magical. You're warm. Like, you just feel it. And so if anybody is just like kind of thinking about working with you and hesitating, book that discovery session, because you'll get a full taste of what it's like to work with Catherine before you have to agree to anything long-term for 4 to 6 months, like we keep talking about. I think discovery sessions are so valuable.
And there's nothing to lose, right? It's just a conversation, an objective perspective, a non-judgment, safe space. And there is no greater investment than investing in yourself. You are worth it. Catherine is worth it, hands down. If we haven't got that point across, listen, It's worth it. She's worth it, and you're worth it. And so we'll plug all of Catherine's information in our show notes. And if you are a little nervous and you need a little cheering on, Andrea and I are happy. Just shoot us a message and we can talk to you more about it too. If you need us to kind of bridge that gap or do the introduction, whatever you need, we want you to know that freedom is available and that you can feel lighter.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you, ladies. My love cup is so full. I love you both so much. And just, it's been just really a joy to seeing you empower yourself. And you are in leadership roles and in such an inspiring way that you bring your wisdom, your knowledge, and it's really a great privilege for me to have worked with both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We love you.
Yes, we love you too. All right. And Catherine, as you know, we have time for our 3 gold stars, 3 takeaways for our listeners. Are you ready to share those?
Absolutely. So number 1 is to practice interrupting the patterns of thought by asking, is this true? What else could this mean? And then, if it's about somebody else, you can check out the source, is everything okay? But really just interrupt those thoughts. Is this true? Probably not about me. So that's number 1. Number 2 is seriously get out of victim mentality. Life happens for you, not to you. And doors will open wide when you become the captain of your ship. Trust me. And number 3 is to get help from someone who's comfortable navigating the realms of uncomfortable emotions. It's really priceless to go there.
Oh, I love those.
So beautiful.
Can you just talk all day? I do not want this dead.
Well,
I know, we need it.
We are going to learn even more because we have Unleashing Ivy. These are our 3 rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
With your history of Lyme's and the way that you've navigated through your professional life and schooling and everything, I'm curious, when was it for you that you really took ownership in your life? Like, is there a moment in your journey that you really feel like you took ownership?
Absolutely. And I have to say that I argued with my soul for about 4 months before I was able to do it. It was when 2016, my business was not even a year old. And I really, after a while, I had to go on a leave of absence from my nurse practitioner job because I was just really sick with Lyme. But I was continuing to build my business at my rhythm. And my soul was telling me, all right, it's time to quit that nurse practitioner job. And I'm like, what? What are you saying? Like, I've studied and I've got my patients and my colleagues, and my soul was like, yep, you're going to have to learn to trust me and quit that nurse practitioner job. And indeed, after 4 months, so after a little while, I had evidence that I could make a living from my coaching business, which is, in our industry, as you know, it's less than 10% of coaches that can make a living from coaching full time. So that was a bit scary. And then I have to say that the moment after I sent my resignation letter, within the I had this surge of energy immediately. It's like I had liberated a huge weight. And within 2 weeks of resignation, I regained 10 of the 17 pounds that I had lost. And I mean, I was like a stick. I was really thin. And it's like my body was like, oh, thank you. And then the next thing my soul said was, okay, next thing is going to be your relationship. Even though it was a beautiful person, we were no longer aligned. And so I said to my soul, okay, one divorce at a time. But that was really when I felt like I just listened to my soul and took that leap of faith and took the reins in my hands and let's do it, baby.
Wow. That's a lot all in one time on top of being sick.
Yeah.
It's powerful that you listen to that. You call it your soul speaking to you. I get confused if it's my soul, if it's God, if it's like what that is, but it's
that knowing.
It's a knowing, but yeah, to me, it's like I feel it when I pray. I like hear the voice of God. I feel. That's what I call it, at least. I think you call it what you want, but that's what I hear it.
Yeah. For me, it's like the God within, which is kind of, it's the universe. It's the infinitely big and the infinitely small, but yet all is part of the whole. So that's kind of how I envision it and feel it.
So did you just feel that it was time to let go of this marriage and your nurse practitioner job? Or when you say you listen to your soul, what does that mean?
It became so uncomfortable to stay that I just had to. It's almost like, this hand is pushing you to the side of the cliff and you got your feet, and then you're right there and you just have to go and trust that those wings literally will support you, like I've done for 16 years of hang gliding. But it was just unbearable.
It was like making you sick, is what it sounds like. Yeah. Or sicker.
It was sicker. And then with the evidence of just big leaps of healing when I finally kind of gave in, and it's almost, you hear this music, of approaching towards the cliff and then ta-da!
Freedom.
And that's really how I experienced it. But it was not easy, because it was one of the biggest decisions of my life, to let go of the dream and what I had studied for, and my colleagues especially, but I wouldn't go back,
Yeah, I think it shows the beauty of trusting in yourself, and that you've got your own back, and when it feels right, don't question it. I mean, maybe question it a little if it's the right choice, put some thought into it, but knowing that your body knows best and it'll tell you.
Yep. Exactly. Totally.
All right. Next question. So Catherine, you are doing 2 different programs right now. You're studying, full-time student. You have full-time coaching practice. You are a wife. You hang glide. You've got a lot going on. And so I'm curious how you find the balance, and also taking care of your health, because your health is very important after going through Lyme and learning all of this. How do you juggle it all?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've been kind of calibrating to this new reality. And I have to say that I will go for what feels best in the moment. So perhaps, last week I was late on my schoolwork because we had spent the weekend with my parents, and there was some beautiful days for flying. And it kind of torn me a little bit, but I decided to stay home and do my work, because I kind of projected myself with my future self at the end of the day. And I connected with which one would be most at peace and the happiest of what I accomplished. And I knew that if I was going to fly with all of this stuff on my mind, I wouldn't be as present and I wouldn't enjoy it as much. So, but other times, let's say I've been working, studying, and I'm on top of things, and then it's a good day and I'm like, yeah, right now I need flying. Or it's going to be going on a bike ride versus just going on a walk. So it's really tuning into what feels best in the moment, and what's my energy level, what do I need, how do I feel, and just responding to that on a moment-to-moment basis. And that's how I felt the balance.
It sounds different than that instant gratification. Because I think some people may hear that and, okay, do what feels good. It's, no, what does the soul need? What's going to nourish you?
Yeah. And thank you for that distinction. It's true. It's not just like, what's going to feel good right now? Cookies. No, it's not that.
Yeah, I still have really that problem. Dark chocolate.
Well, there's good antioxidants in dark chocolate.
That's true. All right, last question. I'm curious, in the next 5 years with the schooling you're doing, what you're most excited for and what you think, like, what it's going to bring to you in the next 5 years.
This is something that, my vision, it kind of keeps changing a lot as I'm studying more. I see a big change in the way we do healthcare. And I'm actually excited to be a pioneer in how this gets to be expressed. And I'm excited about sharing with people what I'm learning, because, I've got a PEMF mat, and now I'm talking about it to everyone, because I'm like, everyone should have one. There's studies, there's benefits. I already feel good after 1 week of using it. Everybody needs one. So the excitement is to share all the wealth of knowledge that honestly has been withheld for about 150 years in the medical field. This is a whole separate conversation, but to really favor pharmaceutical drugs, surgery, chemotherapy. And there's a whole history in the late 1800s of what happened. But really, I'm excited for people to take back their power in empowering themselves to get healthy. And I'm excited to bring in new, old modalities that people can use and to pull from the best of everything to kind of shortcut that roadmap to healing, to wellness. I'm excited to participate in that because I sense that we are on the brim of massive change, and that people are awakening everywhere on the planet, and consciousness is calling to evolve. And so I'm just excited to be a full participant in that.
So exciting.
I love that. And just makes me think of Ivy Unleashed and how we started this podcast. Was there's so much more that we're doing that people don't know about, and we need to share. We felt that calling on our heart, and we sense that people got to know about this because it's helping us, and if it's helping us, it's going to help someone else. And now we are talking to incredible minds like yours, and it's just full circle moment over here. So we're so grateful for you and that you're part of us.
And thank you for listening to that nudge and for starting, even though you didn't know how to do this. There might have been fears and doubts, but yet you kept going. And, now you have this broad audience who's benefiting so much from your wisdom and the great minds that you're bringing in. So I'm just really, really excited and grateful to be on this journey with you, both of you. I love you too so much.
Oh, we love you. We're so grateful for you in our lives and on this podcast, because you're going to help set even more people free, and that you're continuing to learn more and share more with the world. It's so exciting. I can't wait to hear more of your stories of what you're learning and what you're doing. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Well, we hate to see you go, but we know that you'll be back, and you're not really going anywhere because
we won't let you go anywhere. We'll keep finding you.
But we know that you are full of gold, and you know that we leave our listeners at the end of every episode with a piece of gold. And so would you like to share your gold today with us?
Yes. So, the gold, which is really simple, feeling is healing. So I want to add from today's conversation that feeling is healing, and healing is freedom.
This is Gold Ivy signing off.
Listen to your truth and go chase your gold.